is a spiritual war. Of course, it's Trump versus Harris, but it's also God versus the enemy, good versus evil, however you want to cast it. There's something much bigger going on here. And if Christians don't vote, we are going to lose this election. The law is based on the 10 Commandments. We need every Christian out there voting, or this country is going to be lost. And the spiritual warfare coming against us now will be nothing compared to the spiritual warfare that will come to us if Kamala Harris is elected.
Project 2025 contributor and former Trump official Monica Crowley is striking the fear of God into the MAGA voter base by playing into the paranoia and fear already present in the base, reducing our entire process into a simple binary of good versus evil in the process. And she's far from the only one following this playbook.
I can't believe that there isn't going to be a spiritual consequence to a Christian who votes for her. I can't believe it. No one can convince me otherwise.
You know, this sentiment strikes at the heart of why the MAGA movement has thrived for as long as it has and will continue to exist long after Trump is gone. These people are so dead set in their beliefs and refuse to put in the work and self-reflection necessary to break from the stranglehold this specific flavor of Christianity mixed with right-wing politics has over their judgment.
She represents something which I believe is probably the amalgam of the spirit of Jezebel, and in a way that'll be even more ominous than Hillary, because she'll bring a racial component and she's younger.
She can look presidential, and we'll go to this later. That's the seduction of what I would say is witchcraft. That's the manipulation of imagery that creates an impression contrary to the truth, but it seduces you into seeing it. So that spirit, that occult spirit, I believe is operating on her and through her, similar to with Obama.
I saw Kamala Harris as being the one that the devil was going to use to push through the White House. And that I saw that early on. And I actually had a vision, which I thought was a warning from the Lord, of her at an inauguration. And she had a Bible, and she had done something like put a Hindu prayer book with it. And it was like she did an inauguration and was putting her hand on a modified Bible. He said that is how the devil intends to bring in the destruction of this country.
Wallnow's rant is racialized in the way he positions certain political opponents, framing them as existential threats that need to be demonized. And the saddest and most sinister part of the Republican Party conceding all power to fundamentalist evangelical Christians decades ago is that they have achieved real political power and influence over massive swaths of the country and millions of people. You know, just take a look at what this crank admitted on air.
Well, Dr. Carson and Eric Trump, I was both honored and tasked by Dr. Carson and Eric Trump to organize an 11th hour faith leaders meeting. And that is an event that it's for pastors only. President Trump listening to them and treating them in the same way that he might talk to the Secretary of Defense, or the same way that he might talk to maybe the head of Homeland Security, or the way he may talk to, I would like to see President Trump have a prophet in his cabinet.
Conspiracy theorist and Eric Trump confidant Clay Clark confessed to working with Eric Trump to place a so-called prophet in Trump's presidential cabinet to direct his decision-making, spitting in the face of keeping church and state, separate, of course. In that same vein, Clark's guest here, Julie Green, a self-proclaimed prophet herself, has her own connections to Eric and Lara Trump as well.
This knowledge that I have for you, and the words and the strategies that I have for you are far beyond what you have heard. And what I have for you is guaranteed. It will crush your enemies.
What you just heard was an apparent message from God delivered specifically to Green to pass on to Donald Trump, calling for him to listen to prophets like herself. We can't make this stuff up, folks.
There is no one that has stood up against the establishment, no matter how much adversity, no matter how many times they try to impeach, no matter how many times they try to indict, No matter how many times I try to kill him, he just keeps getting right back up and he keeps fight. God said he allowed that last time to show the world who these people really were. And now God's saying it's not that time. They are not going to have their way. And there is no amount of their cheating and their stealing and manipulation that is going to get this election out of our hands into theirs.
He's called him his David. He said his anointed, his appointed one. God has called your father-in-law. He's called him his David.
I truly appreciate it and feel so blessed to be with you.
Sadly, it looks like Julie Green isn't the only MAGA prophet who is speaking sweet nothings to the Trump family.
Over the next 24 hours is Yom Kippur. And the Lord does bring verdicts down in his court. And I am telling you this because I feel it. And Clay knows I don't say anything unless I know it's coming from the Lord. Your enemies that have done this, those verdicts are coming down on Yom Kippur in this next 24 hours against them. God is bringing those verdicts down. I am telling you this. This is happening over the next 24 hours of Yom Kippur. This is when these verdicts come down. And your enemies that have done this to you, these verdicts against them are going to come down on scrolls.
The conflation of religion and politics is negatively affecting the entire country in so many ways. When political decisions are driven by unchallenged religious prophecy, it does lead to irrational governance where policies are made not for the benefit of the people, but instead based on unfounded religious claims. The left can push back by focusing on protecting the separation of church and state, ensuring that laws are based on facts and logic, and continuing to advocate for policies that serve the real diverse needs of all Americans, secular and religious alike.